The paper felt heavy in Denise's hands, heavier than any medical chart she had ever held during her 3 years as a registered nurse. The words swam before her eyes as she read them again, hoping somehow they would change, hoping the cold legal language would transform into something less humiliating, less insulting. Prenuptial agreement, the header read in bold letters. Below it, clause after clause that essentially stated she would have no claim to anything Jake owned, would receive nothing if their marriage ended, and would forfeit any rights to spousal support. The document painted her as a gold digger, a woman who might trap a man for his modest middle-class income and small savings account. "I don't understand," Denise whispered, looking up at Jake's mother, Patricia Harrison, who sat across from her in the upscale coffee shop with her arms crossed and lips pressed into a thin line. "Jake and I have been together for 2 years. We've talked about our future, about building something together." Patricia's gray eyes were cold as winter steel. "My dear, you're a lovely girl, but let's be realistic. You come from nothing. You work at a public hospital, you live in a studio apartment, and frankly, I've done my research. Your family has no money, no connections, no property. Jake may not be wealthy, but he has prospects. He has a good job at the accounting firm, he has his trust fund from his grandfather, and he has expectations." The words hit Denise like physical blows. She had grown up in a modest household with her mother, working hard for everything she had achieved. She had put herself through nursing school, worked nights and weekends to pay for her education, and had never once thought about Jake's money when they started dating. She loved his laugh, his kindness, the way he made her feel like the most important person in the room. "Mrs. Harrison, I've never asked Jake for anything," Denise said, her voice steady despite the pain building in her chest. "I pay my own bills, I buy my own things. I'm not with your son for his money." "Of course you'd say that," Patricia replied, her tone dripping with condescension. "But I've seen this before. Young women like you, they get their hooks into decent men and suddenly there's a pregnancy, a wedding, and then half of everything belongs to someone who contributed nothing to earning it." Denise felt her face burn with shame and anger. "Young women like me? What exactly do you mean by that?" Patricia's silence spoke volumes. She didn't need to say the words for Denise to understand exactly what she meant. The racial undertones were clear, the assumptions about her character, her family, her worth as a human being. "I mean women from your background," Patricia finally said, as if choosing her words carefully. "Women who see an opportunity and take it. I'm simply protecting my son's interests." "Where is Jake in all of this?" Denise asked, her heart pounding. "Does he know you're here? Does he know about this prenup?" Patricia smiled, but it was cold and calculating. "Jake asked me to handle this. He was too embarrassed to do it himself, but he agrees it's necessary. He said you'd understand, that you're a practical girl." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Jake, the man who had told her he loved her, who had talked about their future together, who had met her mother and seemed to genuinely care about her dreams and aspirations, had sent his mother to humiliate her with this document. "I need to hear this from Jake," Denise said, her voice barely above a whisper. Patricia pulled out her phone and dialed. "Jake dear, I'm here with Denise. She wants to speak with you about the prenup." She handed the phone across the table. "Denise?" Jake's voice sounded strange, distant. "Mom explained everything to you, right?" "Jake, what is this? Why didn't you talk to me about this yourself?" There was a long pause. "Look, it's just a precaution. It doesn't mean anything if we stay together forever, right? It's just smart. For both of us." "Smart?" "Jake, this document says I'm entitled to nothing. It says if we divorce I get nothing, even if I support you through school, even if I give up opportunities for your career, even if we have children together. How is that smart for me?" "Denise, you're being dramatic. It's standard. Everyone does this now." "No, Jake, everyone doesn't do this. And certainly not like this. Your mother basically called me a gold digger to my face. She didn't mean it like that." "How did she mean it, Jake? Tell me how telling me I come from nothing and have no prospects was meant to be taken." Another pause. "Maybe you're taking this too personally. It's just business." Denise felt something break inside her chest. This wasn't the man she had fallen in love with. This wasn't the man who had held her when she cried about losing patients at the hospital, who had cheered when she got her nursing degree, who had told her she was the strongest person he knew. "Business?" she repeated flatly. "Our relationship is business to you." "That's not what I meant." "Jake, do you love me?" "Of course I do." "Do you respect me?" "Yes." "Do you believe I'm with you for your money?" The silence stretched too long. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I don't know what to believe anymore. Mom makes some good points." Denise closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. I see. Will you sign it? Please? For us. She looked at Patricia, who was watching her with satisfaction, clearly expecting her to crumble, to accept whatever scraps they were willing to offer. She thought about her mother, who had raised her to have dignity, to never accept less than she deserved, to stand up for herself even when it was difficult. No, Denise said quietly. I won't sign it. Denise, please be reasonable. I am being reasonable, Jake. I'm being reasonable about my own worth and dignity. If you can't see that, then maybe your mother is right about one thing. Maybe we're not a good match. She handed the phone back to Patricia, who took it with a smug expression. I'm sorry it had to come to this, dear, Patricia said, not sounding sorry at all. But it's better to know now than later. Denise stood up, leaving the unsigned prenup on the table. You're right about that, Mrs. Harrison. It is better to know now. As she walked out of the coffee shop, her head held high despite the pain coursing through her body, Denise didn't look back. She had no idea that this moment of humiliation would soon become the catalyst for discovering a truth that would change everything she thought she knew about herself and her family. Behind her, Patricia was already on the phone with Jake, telling him how the difficult girl had refused to be reasonable, how she had probably saved him from a terrible mistake. Neither of them could have imagined that the woman they had just dismissed as unworthy would soon have more money than both of them combined, or that their paths would cross again under very different circumstances. The afternoon sun was bright as Denise walked to her car, her mind reeling from what had just happened. She had planned to spend the day looking at venues for their engagement party. Instead, she was walking away from a relationship that had just revealed its true nature. The man she loved had reduced her to a financial risk, a potential threat to his modest assets. As she drove home to her studio apartment, Denise couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in her world. She had always known that love required trust, but she had never imagined that the person she planned to marry would harbor such doubts about her character. The prenup wasn't just about money, it was about what Jake and his family truly thought of her. Her phone buzzed with text messages from Jake, asking her to reconsider, to think about their future together. But Denise knew that their future had already been decided the moment he had asked his mother to handle what should have been a conversation between them. She parked outside her building and sat in her car for a long moment, watching families walk by, couples holding hands, children playing in the small park across the street. This was the life she had dreamed of having with Jake. Now it felt like a fantasy, something that had never been real to begin with. Little did she know that her phone was about to ring with news that would completely transform her understanding of who she was and where she came from. The next morning, Denise woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. She had spent most of the night crying, replaying the conversation with Patricia and Jake over and over again. Each time, the words stung just as much as the first time she had heard them. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from Jake and dozens of text messages. She scrolled through them, watching the progression from pleading to anger to desperation. Please call me back. We can work this out. You're being unreasonable. It's just a piece of paper. My mom says you stormed out. That's not like you. Fine. If you want to throw away 2 years over a legal document, that's your choice. I'm coming over. We need to talk. Denise deleted the messages without responding. She couldn't bear to hear Jake's voice right now, couldn't trust herself not to cave under pressure and accept something that felt fundamentally wrong. She got ready for work, putting on her scrubs and trying to focus on the day ahead. The hospital was always busy, and she knew that helping patients would give her something else to think about besides her broken relationship. But Jake was waiting for her in the parking lot. Denise, thank God, he said, jogging over to her car as she parked. I've been calling you all night. Why won't you answer? She looked at him, this man she had loved for 2 years, and tried to reconcile him with the person who had sent his mother to humiliate her. Jake was handsome in a conventional way, with brown hair and green eyes, always well-dressed and polite. She had fallen for his stability, his apparent kindness, his middle-class respectability. I need space, Jake, she said quietly, not getting out of her car. Space? Denise, we're supposed to be getting married. We don't need space, we need to communicate. Communicate. She finally looked directly at him. Like how you communicated with your mother about the prenup instead of with me? Jake ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she had once found endearing. I was trying to make things easier for you. I knew Mom could be intense. Intense? Jake, she basically called me a gold digger and implied that I was trying to trap you for your money. And you sat there and let her. I wasn't there. But you agreed with her, didn't you? When I talked to you on the phone, you couldn't even tell me you trusted me. Jake's face reddened. It's not about trust. It's about being smart. Protecting what we've both worked for. What I've worked for. Jake, the prenup gives me nothing. Zero. It protects what you've worked for and assumes I've worked for nothing. That's not how I see it. Then how do you see it? Explain to me how asking me to sign away any claim to anything we might build together is fair or loving or respectful. Jake looked frustrated, like she was being deliberately difficult. Denise, you're a nurse. You make decent money, but let's be realistic about our future earning potential. I'm going to be making partner at the firm in a few years. I have my trust fund. I have investments. It just makes sense to protect those things. And what about protecting me? What about protecting what I contribute to our marriage? What if I put my career on hold to support yours? What if I have your children and my earning potential decreases? What if I help you build your practice or your investments or your career? According to this prenup, none of that matters. You're overthinking this. Am I? Or are you underthinking it? Jake, marriage is supposed to be a partnership. This prenup makes me a tenant in my own life. Jake's expression hardened. Maybe my mother was right. Maybe you were just looking for a payday. The words hit Denise like a slap. She stared at him, this man she had loved, who had just revealed what he truly thought of her. Get away from my car, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. Denise, I didn't mean. Get away from my car, Jake. Now. He stepped back and she got out, walking quickly toward the hospital entrance. He followed her. Denise, please. Let's talk about this rationally. She spun around to face him. Rationally? You want to talk rationally? Let me tell you what's rational, Jake. It's rational for me to realize that the man I thought I loved doesn't actually know me at all. It's rational for me to understand that you and your mother see me as a stereotype rather than as an individual. It's rational for me to walk away from someone who thinks so little of me. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that your mother researched my background like I was applying for a job? Is it fair that she told me I come from nothing? Is it fair that you sent her to handle something that should have been between us? I was trying to protect you from having to deal with all the legal stuff. No, Jake. You were trying to protect yourself from having to look me in the eye and tell me you don't trust me. You were trying to protect yourself from having to admit that you think I'm with you for your money. Jake's face was red now, whether from embarrassment or anger, Denise couldn't tell. Maybe I do think that, okay? Maybe I do wonder sometimes. You work at a public hospital, you live in a studio apartment, you drive a 10-year-old car. Then you meet me and suddenly you're talking about our future, about marriage, about kids. How do I know what your real motivations are? Because you're supposed to know me, Jake. You're supposed to know my character, my values, my heart. If you don't know those things after 2 years, then you don't know me at all. People change when money is involved. Yes, they do. And apparently, you've changed from the man I thought I loved into someone who sees me as a threat to his bank account. Jake grabbed her arm as she turned to walk away. Denise, please. I love you. I want to marry you. Just sign the prenup and we can move forward. She looked down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. Jake, if you loved me, you wouldn't ask me to sign something that assumes I'm going to betray you. If you loved me, you would have talked to me about your concerns instead of sending your mother to humiliate me. If you loved me, you would trust me. I do trust you. No, you don't. And honestly, after this conversation, I don't trust you either. She gently removed his hand from her arm. I'm done, Jake. We're done. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. As she walked into the hospital, Denise felt a strange mixture of heartbreak and relief. The heartbreak was for the relationship she had thought she had, the future she had imagined, the man she had loved. The relief was for finally understanding the truth about what Jake and his family thought of her. Her colleagues at the hospital noticed her distress, but Denise threw herself into her work, caring for patients, helping families, doing the job she had trained for and loved. It was here, surrounded by people who were dealing with real problems, that she felt most like herself. During her lunch break, she called her mother. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. What's wrong, baby? You sound upset. Denise told her mother about the prenup, about the conversation with Patricia, about Jake's reaction. Her mother listened without interrupting, occasionally making soft sounds of sympathy or disapproval. Oh, honey, her mother said when Denise finished. I'm so sorry. But I'm also proud of you for standing up for yourself. Did I do the right thing, Mom? Maybe I should have just signed it. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Denise Williams, you listen to me. You are worth more than any prenup, any trust fund, any bank account. You are educated, you are kind, you are hardworking, and you are beautiful inside and out. If that man can't see that, then he doesn't deserve you. But I loved him, Mom. I know you did, baby. But love isn't enough if it's not built on respect and trust. You deserve someone who values you for who you are, not someone who sees you as a risk to manage. After hanging up with her mother, Denise sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, feeling more alone than she had in years. She had built her life around the idea of a future with Jake, and now that future was gone. She had no idea that her phone was about to ring with a call that would change everything she thought she knew about herself and her place in the world. The call came at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of Denise's shift. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was Jake calling from yet another number since she had blocked his personal phone. But the caller ID showed a law firm she didn't recognize, Hartwell, Stone and Associates. Ms. Williams? This is Margaret Hartwell from Hartwell, Stone and Associates. I'm calling regarding the estate of Richard Thompson. I believe he was your father. Denise's blood ran cold. She hadn't heard her father's name spoken aloud in years. Richard Thompson had left when she was 5 years old, and her mother had rarely mentioned him since. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong person, Denise said, stepping into an empty patient room for privacy. My father hasn't been in my life for over 20 years. I understand this must be shocking, Ms. Williams, but I assure you we have the correct person. Your father passed away 3 weeks ago, and he left explicit instructions regarding his estate. Could you come to our office tomorrow? There are some matters we need to discuss with you in person. Denise's head was spinning. Her father was dead. After all these years of wondering about him, of occasionally Googling his name and finding nothing, he was gone. And apparently he had left something behind that required lawyers. I don't understand. Why would he leave me anything? He walked out on my mother and me. He never sent money, never called, never even sent a birthday card. Ms. Williams, I know this is difficult, but there are things about your father's situation that I think will surprise you. Can you come in tomorrow afternoon? Say 2 p.m.? Denise agreed, more out of curiosity than any real expectation. She spent the rest of her shift in a daze, mechanically performing her duties while her mind raced with questions. What could her father possibly have left her? A box of old photos? Some small savings account? That evening she called her mother again. Mom, I got a strange call today. About Dad. Her mother's sharp intake of breath was audible. What about him? He's dead, Mom. He died 3 weeks ago. A lawyer called me about his estate. There was a long silence. Oh, her mother said finally. I see. Mom, do you know anything about his life after he left us? The lawyer made it sound like there were things I didn't know about him. Denise, your father was a complicated man. He left us because he thought it was better for us, not because he didn't love you. What do you mean? He was involved in some dangerous business deals when you were little. He said he had to disappear to keep us safe. I was so angry at him for leaving that I never wanted to hear his explanations. I just wanted him gone. This was more information about her father than Denise had heard in 20 years. What kind of dangerous business deals? I don't know, baby. He was always secretive about his work. He traveled a lot, made a lot of phone calls, had meetings with people who made me nervous. When he left, he said he would make sure we were taken care of, but I was too proud to accept anything from him. Did he try to contact me over the years? Another pause. Yes. He sent letters for a while, asking about you, sending pictures and money. I sent it all back. I was hurt and angry, and I thought it was better for you to have a clean break. Denise felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. You never told me. I thought I was protecting you. Maybe I was wrong. The next afternoon, Denise sat in the plush reception area of Hartwell, Stone and Associates, feeling completely out of place. The law firm occupied an entire floor of a downtown high-rise, with marble floors, expensive art on the walls, and furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. Margaret Hartwell turned out to be a distinguished woman in her 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes. She led Denise into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Ms. Williams, thank you for coming. I know this must be overwhelming. To be honest, I'm not sure why I'm here. My father left us when I was 5. I haven't had any contact with him since then. Margaret opened a thick folder. Your father never stopped thinking about you, Ms. Williams. He hired private investigators to keep track of your life. He knew about your graduation from nursing school, your job at the hospital, your relationship with Jake Harrison. Denise's eyes widened. He knew about Jake? He knew about everything. He was very proud of you, of the woman you became without his influence. He often said that leaving you was the hardest thing he ever did, but that seeing you succeed on your own proved he had made the right choice. I don't understand. If he was keeping track of me, why didn't he ever reach out? Margaret pulled out a photograph and slid it across the table. It showed a distinguished black man in an expensive suit, standing next to a Thomson Technologies sign. He looked successful, powerful, and somehow familiar. Ms. Williams, your father was Richard Thomson, founder and CEO of Thomson Technologies. He built a technology empire worth over $2 billion. Denise stared at the photograph, feeling like she was looking at a stranger. That's impossible. My father was just a man who left us. He wasn't a billionaire. He was both. He built his company from nothing, starting with a small software development firm and growing it into one of the largest technology companies in the country. But he had enemies, people who wanted to destroy him and anyone he cared about. He left you and your mother to protect you from that world. I don't believe this. Margaret pulled out more documents. These are bank records, business filings, news articles about your father's company. He was very careful to keep his family life separate from his business life. He used a different name professionally, lived in a different city, and never publicly acknowledged having a daughter. Denise looked through the documents, her hands shaking. There were articles about Richard Thomson's business success, photos of him at charity events, records of his various companies and investments. And there in his will was her name. He left everything to me? Everything. The company, the investments, the properties, the charitable foundation. He spent years setting up a trust to manage it all, with instructions that you should have complete control once you're ready. How much money are we talking about? Approximately $2.3 billion, Ms. Williams. You are one of the wealthiest women in the country. Denise felt like she was going to faint. This can't be real. I understand this is shocking. Your father included a letter for you. Margaret handed her a sealed envelope with her name written in careful script. With trembling hands, Denise opened the envelope and began to read. My dearest Denise, if you are reading this, then I am gone and you are learning the truth about who I really was. I know you must have questions and I wish I could be there to answer them myself. I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did. I was a young man with big dreams and dangerous ambitions. I got involved with people who played by different rules, who saw violence as just another business tool. When you were born, I realized I had to choose between the life I was building and the family I loved. I chose to protect you even if it meant you would grow up thinking I didn't care. I have watched you from afar, and I am so proud of the woman you have become. You are kind, you are strong, you are everything I hoped you would be. You achieved success through your own hard work and determination, not because of anything I gave you. Now I am giving you everything I built. Use it wisely. Use it to make the world better. Use it to help people who need help, the way you do every day as a nurse. I love you and I always have. Your father, Richard Thomson. Denise was crying before she finished reading. Margaret quietly handed her a box of tissues. He loved you very much, Margaret said gently. He set up the trust specifically so you could learn about the business gradually so you wouldn't be overwhelmed. You don't have to make any decisions today. I can't take this money, Denise said through her tears. It doesn't feel right. Your father anticipated you might feel that way. He left instructions that if you decided you didn't want the inheritance, it should all go to charity. But he hoped you would at least consider using it to help others. Denise looked out the window at the city below, at all the people going about their daily lives, unaware that the nurse who had been humiliated by a prenup just 2 days ago was now worth more than most countries' GDP. I need time to think about this. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Ms. Williams, I want you to know that your father chose you for a reason. He believed you would know what to do with this responsibility. As Denise left the law office, her mind was reeling. Everything she thought she knew about her life had just been turned upside down. She wasn't the poor nurse that Patricia Harrison had dismissed. She wasn't the woman without prospects that Jake had doubted. She was Richard Thomson's daughter, and she was worth more than she had ever imagined possible. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, documents, and revelations that continued to reshape Denise's understanding of her father and herself. Margaret Hartwell had arranged for a team of financial advisors, lawyers, and accountants to help Denise navigate her new reality. Sitting in another conference room, this one even more luxurious than the first, Denise listened as various professionals explained her father's business empire. Thomson Technologies had started as a small software company but had grown to include everything from mobile apps to artificial intelligence research, cloud computing services, and even a chain of tech education centers. Your father was particularly focused on educational technology, explained Dr. Sarah Chin, the company's current CEO. He believed that technology could democratize education and give opportunities to people who might not otherwise have them. Like me, Denise said quietly. Exactly like you. He often said that his greatest regret was not being able to support your education directly, but he was incredibly proud when you put yourself through nursing school. Michael Rodriguez, the head of the charitable foundation, spread out reports showing the foundation's work. Your father donated millions to healthcare initiatives, particularly in underserved communities. He funded nursing scholarships, built clinics, and supported medical research. He said he was inspired by the work his daughter was doing. Denise touched the papers, seeing her father's influence in areas she had never imagined. He was helping people like my patients? He was helping people like you help every day. He saw the nobility in caregiving and serving others. That's why he structured his will the way he did. He believed you would understand how to use this money to make a real difference. Robert Kim, the head financial advisor, showed her investment portfolios that read like a who's who of successful companies. Your father was an incredibly smart investor. He didn't just build one company, he helped build dozens of them. He had stakes in everything from renewable energy to medical device companies. How much is it really worth? Denise asked. The liquid assets alone are worth about $800 million. The business holdings are worth another $1.2 billion. The real estate portfolio is worth approximately $200 million. And that's before considering the value of his intellectual property and patent holdings. Denise felt dizzy. I don't know how to manage that kind of money. You don't have to manage it alone, Margaret assured her. Your father set up a structure where you can learn gradually while experienced professionals handle the day-to-day operations. You can be as involved as you want to be. What if I make mistakes? What if I lose it all? Dr. Chin smiled. Your father asked me to tell you something if you ever expressed that concern. He said, tell her that I made plenty of mistakes but I learned from each one. The key is to surround yourself with good people and never forget why you're doing what you're doing. Over the following weeks, Denise tried to continue her normal routine while processing her new reality. She still went to work at the hospital, still lived in her studio apartment, still drove her 10-year-old car. But now she knew that she could buy the entire hospital if she wanted to. The knowledge was both empowering and terrifying. She also learned more about why her father had stayed away. Michael Rodriguez showed her FBI files that had been declassified after her father's death. Richard Thompson had been threatened by competitors who used illegal tactics to try to destroy his business. There had been attempts to kidnap his family members, break into his home, and even harm his employees. He disappeared from your life to protect you, Michael explained. He created a completely separate identity for his business life. Richard Thompson the billionaire and Richard Thompson the father were kept completely separate. Even his business associates didn't know he had a daughter. Did the threats ever go away? Eventually. As his company became more established and he gained more legitimate power, the criminal elements moved on to easier targets. But by then you were grown up and successful on your own. He didn't want to disrupt your life. Denise found herself thinking about Jake and his mother's assumptions about her background. They had been so certain she came from nothing, that she had no prospects, no family money, no connections. They had been spectacularly wrong. But more than that, she realized how their assumptions had revealed their own character. They had been ready to dismiss her based on what they thought she lacked, rather than valuing her for what she brought to the relationship. I want to start using the money, Denise told Margaret during one of their weekly meetings. Not for myself but for the foundation. I want to expand the healthcare initiatives. That's wonderful. Your father would be thrilled. I want to build a free clinic in my neighborhood. And I want to create a scholarship program for nursing students from low-income families. Margaret smiled. Those are exactly the kinds of projects your father hoped you would pursue. As Denise began to plan her first major charitable initiatives, she felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She was still a nurse, still caring for patients, but now she could help on a much larger scale. She also began to understand her father's decision to leave. He had sacrificed his relationship with her so she could grow up safe and free to become whoever she was meant to be. He had watched from afar as she built her own life, her own career, her own sense of self-worth. And now, he was trusting her with the responsibility of using his life's work to help others. 3 weeks after learning about her inheritance, Denise was walking through the hospital when she overheard 2 nurses talking about Jake Harrison. Did you hear about Jake's accounting firm? One of them said. They lost their biggest client last week. Something about financial irregularities. Really? I thought he was doing well. Apparently not. His mother has been calling around asking if anyone knows of job openings. I heard they might lose their house. Denise felt a complicated mix of emotions. Part of her felt sorry for Jake, despite everything that had happened between them. But another part of her couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. The man who had worried about her being a financial burden was now facing financial ruin himself. She pushed the thought away and focused on her work. She had more important things to think about than Jake Harrison's problems. But as she would soon learn, Jake's problems were about to become her opportunity to show what true character looked like. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was undeniable. As Denise began to understand the scope of her father's legacy, she found herself changing in ways she hadn't expected. It wasn't just about the money, though that was certainly life-changing. It was about understanding who she really was and where she came from. She spent hours reading through her father's journals, which Margaret had given her from his personal effects. Richard Thompson had been a thoughtful man, deeply concerned about social justice and the responsibility that came with wealth. His entries revealed a man who had struggled with the decision to leave his family, who had second-guessed himself countless times, but who had ultimately believed he was doing what was best for them. March 15, 1998, one entry read, "Denise turns 8 today. I watched her birthday party from across the street. She looked so happy, so confident. Her mother has done an amazing job raising her. I sent flowers anonymously, but I wish I could have given her a hug. Maybe someday she'll understand why I had to stay away." Reading these entries, Denise began to see her father not as the man who had abandoned her, but as someone who had made an impossible choice out of love. It helped heal a wound she didn't even realize was still bleeding. She also began to understand the weight of responsibility that came with her inheritance. This wasn't just money, it was the culmination of her father's life's work, his dreams, his vision for making the world better. She was now the custodian of that vision. Working with the Foundation's team, Denise developed a comprehensive plan for expanding their healthcare initiatives. She wanted to build not just one clinic, but a network of clinics in underserved communities. She wanted to create a scholarship program that would help hundreds of nursing students. She wanted to fund research into diseases that disproportionately affected poor communities. "It's ambitious," Michael Rodriguez told her during one of their planning meetings. "But it's exactly the kind of thing your father would have supported." "I want to do more than just write checks," Denise said. "I want to be involved. I want to work in these clinics, to train the scholarship recipients, to make sure we're really making a difference." Dr. Chin nodded approvingly. "Your father always said that the best leaders are the ones who understand the work from the ground up." He never forgot what it was like to struggle. As Denise threw herself into her new role, she found herself growing more confident, more assured. She was still the same person who had been humiliated by a prenup, but now she understood her own worth in a completely different way. She wasn't valuable because of her money, she was valuable because of her character, her compassion, her ability to see what needed to be done and do it. She also began to transform her lifestyle, though she did so thoughtfully. She moved out of her studio apartment, but instead of buying a mansion, she chose a modest townhouse in a diverse neighborhood where she could stay connected to the community she served. She bought a reliable car, but nothing flashy. She upgraded her wardrobe, but chose classic, professional pieces that would serve her well in boardrooms and community centers alike. The most significant change was in how she saw herself. She had always been proud of her work as a nurse, but now she understood that her desire to help others was part of something larger. She came from a family of people who used their abilities to serve others, even when it required sacrifice. She also began to understand power in a new way. When she walked into meetings now, people listened differently. When she spoke, they paid attention. When she made suggestions, they were taken seriously. It was a heady feeling, but also a sobering one. "Power is a tool," her father had written in one of his journals. "It can be used to build or to destroy, to help or to harm. The key is never to forget that it's a tool, not a goal. The goal is always to make things better for people who need help." 6 weeks after learning about her inheritance, Denise was working a shift at the hospital when she overheard a conversation that would change everything. "Did you hear about the Harrison family?" one of the doctors was saying to another. "Jake's mother came to the emergency room last night. She had a heart attack." Denise felt her chest tighten. Despite everything that had happened, she didn't want Patricia to suffer. "Is she okay?" "She's stable, but the stress hasn't been good for her. I heard they lost their house last week. Jake's been scrambling to find money for her medical bills." Denise finished her shift in a daze, thinking about the woman who had insulted her, who had made her feel small and unworthy. Patricia Harrison was now facing the kind of financial crisis that she had assumed Denise was trying to avoid by dating her son. That evening, Denise called Margaret Hartwell. "I want to do something," she said. "But I want to do it anonymously." "What did you have in mind?" "I want to pay for Patricia Harrison's medical bills. All of them. And I want to set up a fund to help other families who are facing similar situations." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "That's very generous, especially considering how she treated you. My father wrote that the measure of a person isn't how they treat people who can help them, but how they treat people who can't. Patricia Harrison hurt me, but she's still a human being who deserves medical care. I'll set it up through the foundation. She'll never know it came from you." "Good. And Margaret? I want to expand this. I want to create a program that helps families facing medical bankruptcy. I want to make sure no one has to choose between their health and their home. Your father would be so proud." After hanging up, Denise sat in her new townhouse, looking out at the neighborhood where families were dealing with all kinds of struggles. She thought about Jake, who was probably working multiple jobs to try to cover his mother's medical expenses. She thought about Patricia, who was learning what it felt like to be vulnerable and dependent on others' kindness. She thought about how easy it would be to feel vindicated, to enjoy their suffering as karma for how they had treated her. But she didn't feel that way. Instead, she felt compassion and a determination to use her resources to help people who were facing the same kinds of challenges she had once faced. The next morning she called Dr. Chin. "I want to accelerate our timeline," she said. "I want to start opening the clinics next month, not next year. I want to launch the scholarship program immediately. I want to get the medical bankruptcy assistance fund running within 2 weeks." "That's very ambitious. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of rapid expansion?" "I'm sure. I've spent too much time planning and not enough time doing. There are people out there who need help now, not someday." Dr. Chin laughed. "You sound just like your father. He was always impatient to get things done. Maybe that's not such a bad thing." As Denise threw herself into launching her expanded charitable initiatives, she felt a sense of purpose and energy she had never experienced before. She was no longer just helping people one at a time as a nurse, she was helping them by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. And she was doing it all while maintaining her commitment to staying connected to the work. She continued to work shifts at the hospital, continued to care for patients directly, continued to remember what it felt like to be the person who needed help rather than the person who could provide it. Little did she know that her charitable work was about to bring her face to face with the people who had tried to humiliate her, and that she would have to decide what kind of person she really wanted to be. 3 months after learning about her inheritance, Denise stood in front of the mirror in her new townhouse, barely recognizing the woman looking back at her. It wasn't just the better clothes or the professional styling, it was the confidence in her eyes, the way she carried herself, the sense of purpose that seemed to radiate from her very being. She had spent the morning in meetings with architects and contractors, finalizing plans for the first 3 community health clinics. The afternoon would be spent interviewing candidates for the nursing scholarship program. And this evening she would attend her first charity gala as the head of the Thompson Foundation. The irony wasn't lost on her. Just 3 months ago she had been dismissed as a woman with no prospects, no connections, no future. Now she was one of the most powerful philanthropists in the city, with the ability to change thousands of lives with a simple decision. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Saw the article about the new clinics in the paper. Your father would be so proud." "I'm proud too. Love you." The newspaper article had been a surprise. Denise had tried to keep her charitable work low-key, but the scale of what she was doing was impossible to hide. The Thompson Foundation was now one of the largest healthcare-focused charities in the region, and people were starting to notice. She had also started dating again, though she was approaching it very differently than she had before. She wasn't looking for someone to complete her or to provide for her, she was looking for someone who would be a true partner, someone who valued her for who she was, not what she could give them. There was Thomas, a doctor who volunteered at free clinics and had no idea about her wealth. There was Miguel, a teacher who was working on his master's degree in education policy. There was Jonathan, a social worker who had grown up in foster care and was now helping other kids navigate the system. Each of them was attracted to her passion for helping others, her intelligence, her warmth. None of them were interested in her money because none of them knew she had any. "I want to meet someone who loves me for me," she had told Margaret during one of their weekly meetings. "Not for what I can provide." "That's wise. But remember, your wealth is part of who you are now. Eventually you'll need to be honest with anyone you're serious about." "I know. But I want to make sure they love me first." The transformation wasn't just external. Denise found herself thinking differently about problems, about solutions, about what was possible. When she saw a need, she didn't just wish someone would address it, she figured out how to address it herself. When she learned that many of her patients couldn't afford their medications, she worked with pharmaceutical companies to create a discount program. When she discovered that medical students from low-income families were graduating with crushing debt, she established a loan forgiveness program. When she realized that many elderly patients had no one to visit them, she created a volunteer program that paired nursing students with lonely seniors. "You're becoming quite the force for change," Dr. Chin observed during one of their monthly meetings. "Your father built an empire, but you're building a movement. I'm just trying to use what he gave me wisely. You're doing much more than that. You're inspiring other people to give, to volunteer, to think differently about their responsibilities to their communities." It was true. The Thompson Foundation's work had sparked a wave of charitable giving in the city. Other wealthy families were starting their own foundations, other companies were creating volunteer programs, other individuals were finding ways to help their neighbors. Denise had also begun speaking at conferences and events, sharing her vision for healthcare equity and community empowerment. She was a natural speaker, able to connect with audiences by sharing her own experiences as a nurse and her understanding of what it meant to struggle. "I've been on both sides of the equation," she would tell audiences. "I've been the person who needed help, and now I'm in a position to provide it. That perspective is crucial. We can't solve problems we don't understand." Her speeches were inspiring, but they were also practical. She didn't just talk about the need for change, she outlined specific steps that people could take to make a difference. One evening, as she was reviewing applications for the scholarship program, Denise came across a name that made her pause: Jennifer Harrison. She read the application carefully. Jennifer was Jake's younger sister, a senior in high school who wanted to become a nurse. Her essay was compelling, talking about watching her mother struggle with health issues and wanting to help other families navigate the healthcare system. "I've seen how frightening it can be when someone you love is sick and you don't know how to help them," Jennifer had written. "I want to be the person who can provide that help, who can make families feel less alone during their darkest moments." Denise stared at the application for a long time. Jennifer was clearly qualified, she had excellent grades, strong recommendations, and genuine passion for nursing. But she was also Jake's sister, part of the family that had treated Denise so poorly. The easy thing would be to reject the application. The Harrison family had made it clear what they thought of her, and she would be well within her rights to return the favor. But as she read Jennifer's essay again, she thought about her father's words: "The measure of a person isn't how they treat people who can help them, but how they treat people who can't." Jennifer Harrison couldn't help her. Jennifer Harrison probably didn't even know that the scholarship program was funded by the woman her family had insulted. Jennifer Harrison was just a young woman with a dream of helping others, and Denise had the power to make that dream possible. She called Margaret. "I want to approve the Harrison scholarship application," she said. "Are you sure?" "I know the family history. I'm sure. But I want to do something else too. I want to invite all the scholarship recipients to a reception next month. I want to meet them in person, to talk to them about their goals, to let them know that someone believes in them." "That's a lovely idea. Will you be revealing your identity?" "No, not yet. But I want to start building relationships with these students. They're going to be the future of healthcare, and I want to support them in every way I can." As Denise hung up the phone, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She was using her power not for revenge or personal gain, but to create opportunities for others. She was becoming the kind of person her father had hoped she would be. The scholarship reception was scheduled for the following month, and Denise was already looking forward to meeting the young people who would be carrying on her father's legacy of service. She had no idea that the reception would lead to a reunion she hadn't expected, and a conversation that would test everything she believed about forgiveness and grace. The scholarship reception was held at the Thompson Foundation's new headquarters, a beautiful building that had been designed to reflect the organization's mission of service and community. The main hall was filled with young people from all backgrounds, all united by their desire to pursue careers in healthcare and their need for financial assistance. Denise moved through the crowd, talking with the scholarship recipients, learning about their dreams and their challenges. She was struck by their diversity: students from inner-city schools and rural communities, first-generation college students and those whose parents were immigrants, young people who had overcome incredible obstacles to pursue their education. "Ms. Williams?" A young woman approached her hesitantly. "I'm Jennifer Harrison. I received one of the Thompson Foundation scholarships." Denise turned to face Jake's sister, seeing the family resemblance but also noting the differences. Jennifer was softer than Jake, more open, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Jennifer, it's so nice to meet you. I read your application essay. It was very moving. Thank you. I can't believe I got the scholarship. It's going to change my whole life. Tell me about your plans. Jennifer's face lit up. I want to specialize in cardiac nursing. My mother had a heart attack recently and I saw how scared she was, how scared we all were. The nurses who took care of her were incredible. They didn't just treat her medically, they helped our whole family understand what was happening. I want to be that person for other families. Denise felt a complex mix of emotions. She was genuinely touched by Jennifer's passion and her goals. But she was also thinking about Patricia Harrison, the woman who had insulted her and who was now benefiting from her anonymous charity. That's wonderful. Cardiac nursing is challenging but very rewarding. Are you a nurse too? Jennifer asked. I am. I work at City General. Really? My brother's ex-girlfriend works there. Well, she used to be his girlfriend. They broke up a few months ago. It was pretty messy. Denise kept her expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. Honestly, I think it was for the best. My family? Well, we weren't very nice to her. My mother was worried about Jake's finances, and she treated his girlfriend like she was some kind of gold digger. It was embarrassing. That must have been difficult for everyone involved. Jennifer nodded. My brother's been struggling since then. He lost his job and with Mom's medical bills, things have been really tough. But we've been lucky someone anonymously paid for Mom's hospital bills. Can you believe that? A complete stranger just paid for everything. Denise managed to smile. That's wonderful. There are still good people in the world. I know, right? It restored my faith in humanity. I want to be the kind of person who helps others like that someday. As the evening continued, Denise found herself drawn to Jennifer's genuine warmth and enthusiasm. Despite being Jake's sister, despite coming from a family that had treated her poorly, Jennifer was clearly a good person with a sincere desire to help others. After the reception, Denise was reviewing notes about the scholarship recipients when Margaret approached her. There's someone here to see you, Margaret said. He says it's urgent. Denise looked up to see Jake Harrison standing in the doorway of her office. He looked different, thinner, more haggard, his clothes less expensive than she remembered. The confident young man she had dated was gone, replaced by someone who looked like he was carrying the weight of the world. Jake, she said calmly. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you, Denise. Please. She gestured for him to sit down, though she remained standing. What about? Jake ran his hands through his hair, the gesture she had once found endearing now just looking desperate. I know about the scholarship. Jennifer got one of the Thompson Foundation scholarships for nursing school. Congratulations to her. She seems like a bright young woman. Denise, I also know about my mother's medical bills. Someone paid them anonymously, but I'm not stupid. I know it was you. Denise kept her expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Just like I know you're involved with the Thompson Foundation somehow. You always talked about wanting to help people on a larger scale, and now suddenly there's this foundation doing exactly the kind of work you always said you wanted to do. Jake, I think you're giving me too much credit. I'm still just a nurse at City General. Are you? Because I've been doing some research and I can't find any information about who runs the Thompson Foundation. The founder is listed as R. Thompson, but there's no other information. And you know what's interesting? Thompson is your middle name. Denise felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her voice steady. That's quite a theory. Jake leaned forward. Denise, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to apologize. And to ask for your help. Apologize for what? For everything. For the prenup, for not standing up to my mother, for not trusting you. For treating you like you were beneath us when you are. When I am what, Jake? When you're better than all of us. When you're the kind of person who pays for her ex-boyfriend's mother's medical bills even after that woman insulted you. When you're the kind of person who gives my sister a scholarship even though my family treated you terribly. Denise sat down finally, studying Jake's face. You're in trouble, aren't you? My mother is dying, Denise. The heart attack was just the beginning. She needs surgery, expensive surgery, and our insurance won't cover all of it. I've sold everything I can sell, I've borrowed money from everyone I know, and it's still not enough. And you think I can help? I think you're the only person who can help. I think you're the Thompson Foundation, or at least part of it. And I think you're the only person in the world who might be willing to save the woman who treated you so badly. Denise was quiet for a long moment. Jake, even if I could help, why would I? Your mother made it very clear what she thought of me. She researched my background, she insulted my family, she treated me like I was trying to steal from you. Because you're a better person than she is. Because you're a better person than I am. That's not a reason, Jake. That's just guilt talking. Jake's eyes filled with tears. She's my mother, Denise. She's not perfect, but she's my mother. And I know she was wrong about you. I know we were both wrong about you. How do you know that? Because I've spent the last 3 months thinking about what you said. About trust, about respect, about what love really means. And I realized that everything you said was right. I didn't trust you. I didn't respect you. I didn't love you the way you deserved to be loved. Denise felt a familiar pain in her chest, the echo of the heartbreak she had felt months ago. Jake, I can't help you just because you've figured out that you were wrong. I'm not asking you to help me because I was wrong. I'm asking you to help me because it's who you are. Because you help people even when they don't deserve it. And what makes you think your mother deserves it? Jake was quiet for a moment. She doesn't, but Jennifer does. And the other patients in that cardiac unit do. And maybe if you save her, she'll learn something about the kind of person you really are. Denise looked at Jake, seeing the desperation in his eyes, the love for his mother despite her flaws. She thought about Jennifer, about the young woman's dream of helping families through medical crises. She thought about Patricia, lying in a hospital bed, probably scared and alone. I'll make you a deal, she said finally. Anything. I'll help with your mother's medical expenses. But not because of you and not because of her. Because of Jennifer, and because of all the other families who are facing the same situation. Thank you, Jake said, his voice breaking. Thank you so much. I'm not finished. In exchange, I want you and your mother to volunteer for the foundation. I want you to help other families navigate the healthcare system. I want you to understand what it's like to be on the other side of the equation. Of course, whatever you want. And Jake, I want you to tell your mother the truth. I want you to tell her that the woman she dismissed as a gold digger is the one who's saving her life. And I want you to tell her that she owes her daughter's education to the same woman. Jake nodded, though he looked pale at the thought of that conversation. One more thing, Denise said. This doesn't change anything between us. I'm helping your family because it's the right thing to do, not because I want to get back together with you. I understand. Do you? Because I've moved on, Jake. I found out who I really am and I found out what I'm really worth. And it has nothing to do with money and everything to do with character. After Jake left, Denise sat in her office for a long time thinking about the conversation. She had agreed to help the Harrison family, but she had also drawn clear boundaries. She was doing it on her terms, for her reasons and with her conditions. She thought about her father, about the lessons he had tried to teach her through his journals and his example. He had written about the importance of using power responsibly, of helping others even when it was difficult, of being the kind of person who made the world better. Tomorrow she would authorize the payment for Patricia Harrison's surgery. She would also announce the expansion of the medical assistance program to help hundreds of other families facing similar crises. But tonight she would go home to her townhouse, call her mother, and feel grateful for the journey that had brought her to this moment of clarity about who she was and what she stood for. The reckoning was coming and Denise was ready for it. The conversation that would change everything took place on a Tuesday morning in Patricia Harrison's hospital room. Denise had decided to visit before the surgery, not as the anonymous benefactor, but as herself, the woman Patricia had once dismissed as unworthy of her son. Patricia was awake, looking frail but alert. She was alone, which surprised Denise. She had expected Jake or Jennifer to be there. Mrs. Harrison, Denise said softly from the doorway. Patricia turned her head, and her eyes widened with recognition and confusion. Denise? What are you doing here? I heard about your surgery. I wanted to check on you. Patricia's face showed a mixture of embarrassment and suspicion. That's very kind of you, but I'm sure you have better things to do than visit your ex-boyfriend's mother. Denise stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. If this is about Jake, I should tell you that he's been miserable since you two broke up. He realizes he made a mistake. This isn't about Jake, Mrs. Harrison. This is about you and me. Patricia shifted uncomfortably in her bed. I don't understand. Denise pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. I want to talk to you about assumptions. About the assumptions you made about me and about the assumptions you're still making. Denise, I know you're angry about the prenup situation. I may have been a bit harsh. A bit harsh. Denise interrupted. Mrs. Harrison, you researched my background like I was applying to work for the CIA. You told me I came from nothing. You assumed I was with your son for his money. You sent me a prenup that essentially said I was worth nothing. Patricia's face flushed. I was protecting my son. From what? From a woman who loved him? From someone who had never asked him for anything? From a nurse who was putting herself through school and working to help others? I didn't know you then. You didn't want to know me. You looked at me and saw what you expected to see based on your prejudices. You saw a black woman dating your son and assumed I must be after his money. Patricia's flush deepened. That's not. I didn't. Mrs. Harrison, let me tell you something about assumptions. You assumed I was a gold digger. You assumed I came from nothing. You assumed I had no prospects, no family money, no connections. You were wrong about all of it. I don't understand what you're trying to say. Denise reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. My name is Denise Thompson Williams. I'm the president of the Thompson Foundation. Patricia stared at the card, then back at Denise. The Thompson Foundation? But that's the foundation that's paying for your surgery. That's the foundation that gave Jennifer her scholarship. That's the foundation that has been helping families like yours navigate medical crises. The color drained from Patricia's face. I don't understand. The anonymous donor who paid your medical bills? That was me. The scholarship that's sending Jennifer to nursing school? That came from me. The foundation that's been helping families facing medical bankruptcy? I run it. Patricia looked like she might faint. But how? You're a nurse. I'm a nurse and a billionaire, Mrs. Harrison. My father was Richard Thompson, the founder of Thompson Technologies. He left me everything when he died. Billionaire? Patricia whispered. About $2.3 billion to be exact. So when you worried about me being a gold digger, when you assumed I was after Jake's modest savings account and his small trust fund, you were worried about the wrong person. Patricia was silent for a long moment, staring at the business card in her hands. I don't know what to say. You could start with an apology. I'm sorry, Patricia said immediately. I'm so sorry. I was completely wrong about you. Yes, you were. But Mrs. Harrison, I didn't come here to humiliate you. I came here to teach you something. What? That people are more than what they appear to be on the surface. That assumptions based on race, class, or background are usually wrong. That character and worth aren't determined by bank accounts or family connections. Patricia nodded, tears starting to form in her eyes. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not sure you do. You're sorry because you found out I have money. But you should be sorry because you judged me without knowing me. You should be sorry because you assumed the worst about someone based on their appearance. You should be sorry because you treated another human being with disrespect. You're right. I am sorry about all of that. Mrs. Harrison, I want to ask you something. If I had been exactly what you thought, I was a woman with no money, no family connections, no prospects, would that have made me less deserving of respect? Patricia was quiet for a long moment. No, she said finally. It wouldn't have. Then why did you treat me that way? Because I was scared. I was scared that Jake would make a mistake, that he would marry someone who didn't really love him. I was scared that he would end up hurt or taken advantage of. So you decided to hurt me instead? I didn't think of it that way at the time. Mrs. Harrison, I loved your son. I loved him enough to put myself through the humiliation of sitting in that coffee shop while you insulted me and my family. I loved him enough to hope that he would defend me, that he would stand up for me, that he would show me that he knew my worth. But he didn't. No, he didn't. And that's when I realized that he didn't really know me at all. If he had known me, if he had understood my character, he would have known that I wasn't with him for his money. Patricia wiped her eyes. I'm sorry we hurt you. I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad, Mrs. Harrison. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something important. I'm helping you not because you deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do. I'm helping you because that's who I am. Why are you helping me after the way I treated you? Because I learned something from my father. He wrote that the measure of a person isn't how they treat people who can help them, but how they treat people who can't. You can't help me, Mrs. Harrison. You have nothing I need. I'm helping you because it's what good people do. Patricia was crying now. I don't deserve your help. No, you don't. But Jennifer deserves to have her mother healthy. The other patients in this hospital deserve to have the programs that your medical bills are funding. And you deserve the chance to learn from this experience and become a better person. How can I ever make this up to you? By treating other people better than you treated me. By not making assumptions about people based on their appearance or their background. By teaching Jake and Jennifer to judge people by their character, not their bank accounts. Patricia nodded, still crying. I will. I promise I will. There's something else, Mrs. Harrison. I want you to volunteer for the foundation when you're feeling better. I want you to help other families navigate the healthcare system. I want you to understand what it's like to be on the other side of the equation. Of course, whatever you want. And I want you to tell people your story. I want you to tell them about the assumptions you made and what you learned. I want you to help other people avoid making the same mistakes. I will. I promise. Denise stood up to leave, then turned back. Mrs. Harrison, I hope your surgery goes well. I hope you recover quickly. And I hope you remember this conversation for the rest of your life. As Denise walked out of the hospital room, she felt a sense of completion. She had faced the woman who had humiliated her, but she had done so with grace and dignity. She had shown Patricia Harrison what true character looked like, and she had given her a chance to learn and grow. But more than that, she had proven to herself that she was the kind of person her father had hoped she would be. She had used her power not for revenge but for education. She had used her resources not to punish but to heal. The reckoning was complete, and Denise was ready to move forward with her life. The weeks following Patricia's surgery were transformative for the entire Harrison family. Patricia's recovery was smooth, thanks to the excellent care she received and the lack of financial stress that might have complicated her healing. But the real transformation was in her attitude and understanding. True to her word, Patricia began volunteering at the Thompson Foundation as soon as she was cleared by her doctors. She started in the family support program, helping other families navigate the complex world of medical billing and insurance claims. Her first week was humbling. Mrs. Harrison, Margaret Hartwell told her during her orientation, you'll be working with families who are facing the same situation you were in just a few weeks ago. The only difference is that they don't have someone paying their bills. Patricia's first client was Maria Santos, a single mother whose son had been in a car accident. Maria worked 2 jobs but still couldn't afford the rehabilitation therapy her son needed. I don't know what to do, Maria said, tears streaming down her face. He's only 16 and they're telling me he might never walk again without this therapy. But I can't afford $3,000 a month. Patricia listened to Maria's story, remembering her own desperation just weeks earlier. She thought about how she had judged Denise for her background, while Maria, who worked harder than anyone Patricia knew, was facing impossible choices because of circumstances beyond her control. Let me see what we can do, Patricia said, her voice gentle and understanding in a way it had never been before. Within hours, Patricia had connected Maria with the Foundation's physical therapy program and secured funding for her son's treatment. Watching Maria's face light up with hope and relief, Patricia understood something she had never grasped before. Dignity and worth weren't determined by bank accounts, but by character and resilience. Thank you, Maria said, hugging Patricia tightly. You saved my son's future. Patricia drove home that evening thinking about the conversation she needed to have with Jake. He had been avoiding serious discussions since his mother's surgery, content to simply be grateful that she was alive and that the bills were paid. But Patricia knew they needed to address what had really happened. She found Jake in his apartment, which he had managed to keep thanks to the relief from medical expenses. He was looking through job listings online, trying to rebuild his career after losing his position at the accounting firm. Jake, we need to talk, Patricia said, settling into the chair across from his small kitchen table. If this is about Denise again, Mom, I know I messed up. I know she's amazing and I lost her. It's not just about losing her, Jake. It's about why you lost her. And it's about what we need to learn from this experience. Jake looked up from his laptop. I'm listening. Do you understand what really happened with the prenup situation? We insulted her and she left me for it. Jake, we didn't just insult her. We revealed that we didn't know her at all. We showed her that after 2 years together, you still thought she might be using you for your money. But I loved her. Love isn't just a feeling, Jake. Love is trust, respect, and understanding. If you had really loved her, you would have known her character well enough to trust her completely. Jake was quiet, processing his mother's words. And I made it worse, Patricia continued. I made assumptions about her based on her race, her job, her background. I treated her like she was less than us when she was actually better than us. Better than us? Jake, the woman we dismissed as having no prospects is worth over $2 billion. The woman we worried might take advantage of you is the one who saved our family from financial ruin. The woman we treated with disrespect has shown us more grace than we deserve. Jake stared at his mother. $2 billion? She's Richard Thompson's daughter. Thompson Technologies. She inherited everything when he died. But she's a nurse. She's a nurse and a billionaire, Jake. She works at that hospital because she wants to help people, not because she has to. She drives a modest car and lives in a townhouse because she's humble, not because she can't afford better. Jake put his head in his hands. Oh God. What did I do? You showed her that you didn't really know her. You showed her that your trust in her was conditional. You showed her that you saw her as a potential threat instead of as a partner. How can I fix this? Patricia reached across the table and took her son's hand. You can't fix it, Jake. That relationship is over, and it should be. Denise has moved on, and she deserves someone who will love her unconditionally from the start. But I do love her unconditionally now. No, Jake. You love the idea of her now that you know she's wealthy. That's not unconditional love. That's just another form of the same mistake. Jake was silent for several minutes, absorbing the truth of his mother's words. What do I do now? He asked finally. You learn. You grow. You become the kind of man who would never make those mistakes again. You work on yourself so that when you meet someone new, you'll be capable of the kind of love and trust that Denise deserved. Over the next several weeks, both Jake and Patricia threw themselves into volunteer work with the Thompson Foundation. Patricia continued working with families facing medical crises, while Jake joined the financial counseling program, helping people understand their options when facing medical debt. The work was eye-opening for both of them. They met families from all backgrounds who were struggling with circumstances beyond their control. They saw the strength and dignity of people who had very little money but enormous character. They learned to see past surface appearances to the human beings underneath. One day, while Patricia was training a new volunteer, she found herself telling her story. I used to think that people's worth was tied to their bank accounts, she said to the group. I made terrible assumptions about someone based on their race and their background. I almost cost my family the love and respect of an incredible woman because I couldn't see past my own prejudices. What changed your mind? One of the volunteers asked. I learned that the woman I had dismissed as unworthy was actually one of the most worthy people I had ever met. And I learned that she was helping me not because I deserved it, but because that's who she is. She taught me that character matters more than money, and that grace is more powerful than revenge. The story spread throughout the foundation, becoming part of the culture and training. New volunteers heard about the Harrison family's transformation as an example of how people could learn and grow. Meanwhile, Denise was building something beautiful with her life. The foundation continued to expand, opening new clinics, funding more scholarships, and helping thousands of families. She had also found love with Thomas, the doctor who had volunteered at free clinics. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine understanding of each other's character. Thomas had learned about her wealth gradually, but it hadn't changed his feelings for her. He loved her for her compassion, her intelligence, her dedication to helping others. The money was simply a tool that allowed her to help on a larger scale. I love that you use your resources to make the world better, he told her one evening as they volunteered together at one of the foundation's clinics. But I would love you just as much if you were still working at the hospital and living in that studio apartment. How do you know? Denise asked, smiling. Because I fell in love with you before I knew about the money. I fell in love with the woman who stays late to comfort worried families, who remembers every patient's name, who sees the best in people even when they don't see it in themselves. It was the kind of love Denise had always dreamed of, love based on who she was, not what she could provide. 6 months after Patricia's surgery, Denise received a letter from Jennifer Harrison. Jennifer was excelling in nursing school and had been accepted into a competitive program for cardiac nursing. Dear Ms. Williams, the letter read, I wanted to thank you again for the scholarship, but also for the example you've set for our family. Watching my mother and brother volunteer for the foundation, seeing how much they've learned and grown, has been incredible. You didn't just save my mother's life, you saved our family's soul. You taught us what real grace looks like, and what it means to treat people with dignity regardless of their circumstances. I hope someday I can be half the person you are. Reading the letter, Denise felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had faced her biggest challenge with grace and wisdom, and in doing so she had changed not just her own life, but the lives of everyone around her. The woman who had once been dismissed as unworthy had proven her worth in the most meaningful way possible by lifting others up instead of tearing them down. 1 year after the Prenup incident that had shattered her world, Denise stood in the main hall of the new Thompson Community Health Center, watching as hundreds of people celebrated the grand opening. The facility was beautiful state-of-the-art medical equipment housed in a building designed to feel welcoming rather than institutional, with natural light, healing gardens, and spaces for families to gather and support each other. But the real beauty was in the people. Denise watched as Dr. Martinez, a physician who had grown up in this very neighborhood, explained the free diabetes prevention program to a group of elderly residents. She saw Jennifer Harrison, now in her second year of nursing school, volunteering at the children's vaccination clinic. And in the corner, she spotted Patricia Harrison helping a young father understand his insurance options, her manner patient and kind, so different from the woman who had once dismissed Denise as unworthy. "Quite a turnout," Thomas said, appearing at her side with 2 cups of coffee. Even after dating for 8 months, he still insisted on bringing her coffee at foundation events, claiming it was his contribution to her world-changing work. "It's everything my father dreamed of," Denise replied, accepting the cup gratefully. "Healthcare that's accessible to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay." He would be proud. Denise smiled, thinking about the journal entries she still read sometimes when she needed guidance. Her father had written extensively about his vision for healthcare equity, about his belief that access to medical care was a basic human right. This clinic was the realization of that vision. "Ms. Williams?" A young woman approached them nervously. "I'm Sarah Chin, Dr. Chen's daughter. I wanted to thank you for the scholarship." Denise turned her full attention to Sarah, recognizing the name from the application files. "Sarah, it's wonderful to meet you. You're studying public health, right?" "Yes, ma'am. I want to work on healthcare policy, to help create systems that prevent families from having to choose between medical care and financial stability. That's exactly the kind of work we need more people doing. Have you given any thought to what you'd like to focus on specifically?" As they talked, Denise was struck by Sarah's passion and intelligence. This was why the scholarship program mattered, not just to help individual students, but to develop the next generation of healthcare leaders who would carry on the work of making healthcare accessible to everyone. The conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Denise looked over to see Jake Harrison entering the building, looking around nervously. He was better dressed than the last time she had seen him, and there was something different about his demeanor, less entitled, more humble. "I should go talk to him," Denise told Thomas. "Are you sure? I can handle it if you'd prefer." Denise squeezed his hand appreciatively. Thomas's protective instincts were sweet, but unnecessary. "It's fine. I'm curious what he wants." She approached Jake, who was standing uncertainly near the registration table. "Jake," she said calmly, "I'm surprised to see you here." "Denise, thank you for agreeing to see me. I know I don't deserve your time. What can I do for you?" Jake looked around at the bustling clinic, at the families receiving care, at the volunteers helping patients navigate the system. "I wanted to see what you've built. And I wanted to apologize properly." "You already apologized." "No, I apologized for how the prenup situation went wrong. I never apologized for who I was, for the person who could treat you that way in the first place." Denise studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or self-interest, but seeing only genuine remorse. "Go on." "I've been volunteering with the foundation for 6 months now, working with families who are facing financial crises because of medical bills. And every single day, I meet people who are stronger, more resilient, more deserving of respect than I ever understood. I've learned that character has nothing to do with bank accounts." "That's good, Jake. But more than that, I've learned what I lost when I lost you. Not your money, I didn't even know about that. I lost someone who had real character, real strength, real compassion. I lost someone who could have made me a better person if I had been smart enough to listen to her." Denise felt a familiar ache in her chest, but it was different now, not the sharp pain of heartbreak, but the gentler sadness of something that could have been beautiful if circumstances had been different. "I appreciate you saying that, Jake. I'm not saying it to get you back. I know that ship has sailed, and honestly it should have. I'm saying it because you deserved to hear it a year ago, and I was too blind and too selfish to say it then." "Thank you." Jake looked around the clinic again. "This place is incredible. The work you're doing, it's changing lives. It's what good people do when they have the resources to help." "I know. And I want you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be a good person too. Not because I think it will change anything between us, but because it's who I should have been all along." Denise felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Jake." "I hope you're happy, Denise. Really happy. You deserve all the love and success in the world." As Jake left, Denise felt Thomas appear beside her again. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything's perfect," she said, and she meant it. That evening, after the clinic celebration had ended and the last volunteers had gone home, Denise and Thomas sat in her townhouse kitchen, sharing takeout Chinese food and talking about the day. "I have something to tell you," Thomas said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. It's just, I've been thinking about our future. Denise felt her heart rate increase. They had talked about the future in general terms but nothing specific. What about it? Thomas reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. I love you, Denise. I love your compassion, your intelligence, your dedication to helping others. I love how you see the best in people even when they don't deserve it. I love how you use your gifts to make the world better. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant engagement ring. I don't care about your money except as a tool for helping others. I don't care about your family history except as it shaped you into the incredible woman you are today. I care about you and I want to spend the rest of my life supporting you, learning from you and building something beautiful together. Denise looked at the ring, then at Thomas's face, seeing nothing but love and sincerity. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to be my partner in every sense of the word. I'm asking you to let me love you the way you deserve to be loved, completely, unconditionally, and forever. Denise thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. A year ago she had been asked to sign a prenup that assumed she was a gold digger. Now she was being proposed to by a man who loved her despite her wealth, not because of it. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I will marry you. As Thomas slipped the ring onto her finger, Denise felt a sense of completeness she had never experienced before. She had found love that was based on who she was rather than what she had. She had built a life of purpose and meaning. She had turned pain into power and heartbreak into healing. 6 months later, Denise and Thomas were married in a beautiful ceremony in the garden of the Thompson Community Health Center. The wedding was attended by foundation staff, scholarship recipients, volunteer families, and friends from all walks of life. Jennifer Harrison served as one of the bridesmaids, having become genuinely close to Denise through their work together. Patricia Harrison attended as well, bringing Maria Santos as her guest. The two women had become close friends through their volunteer work. Jake was not invited, but he sent a beautiful letter wishing Denise happiness and thanking her for the lessons she had taught his family about grace and forgiveness. In her wedding speech, Denise talked about the journey that had brought her to this day. A year and a half ago, I thought my life was falling apart, she said, looking out at the faces of people who had become her chosen family. I was asked to sign a document that said I was worth nothing. Today I understand that my worth was never determined by what others thought of me, but by what I chose to do with the gifts I was given. She looked at Thomas, standing beside her with love and pride in his eyes. I've learned that real love doesn't require prenups or protections. Real love is built on trust, respect, and the belief that together, you can build something more beautiful than either of you could create alone. As the celebration continued into the night, Denise felt the presence of her father, the man who had sacrificed his relationship with her to give her the freedom to become who she was meant to be. She knew he would be proud of the woman she had become, the love she had found, and the legacy she was building. The girl who had once been dismissed as unworthy had proven her worth in the most meaningful way possible by creating a life of purpose, compassion, and love. And she was just getting started.